So good morning, everyone, and welcome to this Stakeout to launch the global campaign against plastic pollution. We have today the President of the General Assembly, Her Excellency María Fernanda Espinosa, the Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, His Excellency Gaston Browne, and the Deputy Permanent Representative of Norway, Her Excellency María Skare. Madam President, you have the floor. Thank you very much.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I think that the House is full now, and we have so many things happening at the same time. As we all know, you have a great experience. I really am very honored to be here with the Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda and with the DPR of Norway. We are joining forces to launch this global campaign against single-use plastics. You know this, but I think it's very good that we repeat and remind ourselves some data on this issue. 80% of the plastic ends up in the ocean, and this is equivalent to 8 to 12 million tons of plastic. It is estimated that by 2050 there will be more plastic than fish in the sea. Microplastics are now confirmed in table salt, in fresh water. Each person on the planet is believed to have plastic in their bodies due to this. And this came out of a recent report of the Austrian Academy of Science. What is the purpose of the campaign? I intend to leverage the capacity of the Office of the President of the General Assembly to support ongoing global campaigns to beat plastic pollution. And these include a UN Environment campaign, National Geographic campaign. This includes a Global Citizens campaign against single-use plastics. And this will, of course, complement efforts by other organizations, especially civil society organizations. And the campaign has two elements. One, the internal initiatives to reduce plastic waste at the UN, which means walk the talk. And you know, my dear friends, that we still have a lot to do within the UN premises. Here in New York, but in every UN office around the world. There are several efforts that have been done in Nairobi, in Geneva, but we expect that we will be able to eradicate the use of single-use plastics within the UN premises. And the second element is global advocacy, in conjunction, of course, with member states and UN agencies to reach the public. This global advocacy campaign is going to have certain elements that we will share with you shortly. The in-house initiative is already, we have a plan, we have a roadmap for that. We are privileged because we have the full support of the Secretary General. You know that there is a steering committee at the UN to address this very issue. There is a specific resolution, which is Resolution 71/228 on this issue. And the idea is to support the UN family in greening the blue. You know the campaign Greening the Blue, especially with regards to the use of single-use plastic. So we will be embarking in strengthening the Greening the Blue initiative. What are the events we are planning? An event in New York in spring to recognize individuals and civil society that are making innovative progress against single-use plastics. A signature event in April in partnership with Antigua and Barbuda and the government of Norway. And the Prime Minister and the DPR of Norway are going to announce that. It's a very exciting event in Antigua and Barbuda, and we hope to see you there when it happens. And a photo exhibit and a contest that will take place at the UN General Assembly Visitor Center in the spring to coincide with World Environment Day. These are the activities we are planning. We're fully committed, and as mentioned at the beginning, we're super privileged to be working with Antigua and Barbuda and Norway. And I have to say there are several other countries that are engaging and committing to partner with us in this initiative. I think that we will open the floor for questions afterwards, and I have the privilege to introduce the Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda that is going to address the press. Thank you. Prime Minister.
Thank you very much, distinguished Madam President, members of the press. It is certainly a pleasure for Antigua and Barbuda to partner with the United Nations and Norway in dealing with the issue of plastic pollution. Antigua and Barbuda has been successful in the elimination of single-use plastics. During the past 2 years, we have introduced a ban which has worked very well. And in addition, we have also banned the use of styrofoam utensils, straws, and other such initiatives. Now, Antigua and Barbuda is the first country in the Caribbean to have introduced the ban on single-use plastics. So we're not only leading within the Caribbean, but globally. And we want to utilize our example, our experiences, in order to encourage other nations to follow and to introduce a ban on plastic. We all know the difficulties surrounding the use of plastics and the pollution caused by plastics, environmental problems, as well as health problems. We also need to protect our oceans, and we are calling on all nations to join us in banning the use of single-use plastic. Again, we want to take this opportunity to thank the distinguished President of the United Nations General Assembly for placing this very important initiative on her agenda, one that certainly will make the planet a healthier place to live. I thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. It's an honor for me to be present at this launch of this wonderful campaign against plastic pollution and the announcement from the Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda. We are strong supporters of the initiative, and the reason is that we have a problem. We have a problem with plastic pollution. We know this, Norway knows this. We are an ocean nation. We are a small state, but we are a large ocean nation. We know that the plastic pollutes our seas and oceans. We know it's a health problem for the oceans. We know it's a health problem for humans. Fish eat plastics, humans eat fish. So we have a problem. The good news is that we have solutions. We can solve this. And this is why this campaign, this initiative is so important. If we as consumers use our own bottles, don't buy plastic, if we as businesses, governments, the whole global community, civil society, if we make a concerted effort in preventing, in beating plastic pollution, we can do it. So this is why Norway is here. We want to be a partner in this initiative. We want to pull our weight in finding good, clean solutions for our common future. Thank you.
Yeah, we can join me in case there are questions.
Thank you very much, Madam President, Prime Minister, Ambassador. Pamela Paul from CBS News. There was there's quite a bit of progress on eliminating plastic around the world, and you've made some progress at COP24. There was a study today that came out that said, what's the alternative from Hayrat Watt University? And academics said if plastics are replaced with other papers, it could be worse for the environment. What's the plan for people to use to drink soda or water or anything else other than your recycled? Thank you.
Well, I think that there are several alternatives, and the good news is that both on the side of the production chain, there are hundreds of private sector companies that are committed to replacing single-use plastics with other materials, and the variety is huge. You see, for example, perhaps the Prime Minister can tell us from firsthand, but we see the plates, the styrofoam that is being replaced by natural materials. There are paper straws that completely disappear and they're 100% recyclable. So I think that there are alternatives, that the private sector is committed, but also I think it is very important that from the consumer side, as the ambassador of Norway was saying, from the consumer side, we are also very demanding and selective on this. I don't know if you have anything to add, Prime Minister?
Yeah, just to add that there are many options. In fact, there are even biodegradable options that look like plastic. Mm-hmm. The key issue is to utilize biodegradable material so that we do not have plastic floating in our oceans and polluting the earth and certainly our oceans.
Next question, Al Jazeera.
James Bates from Al Jazeera. Can I ask you what response you've been getting from big business, from plastics companies, from food companies, from water companies? And a second question, if I may, while we have you here, which is newsworthy. There have been appalling allegations of corruption in previous PGA's offices coming out in a court case in Manhattan in recent days. I know there is not a verdict in that court case, but it includes the PGA, the late PGA that came from the Prime Minister's country. What is the UN doing to make sure that can never happen again?
Well, on the first question, I think that you are aware of the effort that UN Environment is doing to, gather support from private sector. There are hundreds of companies, private companies, that have signed into committing to replace single-use plastics. And the commitment is there. I was, I think a month and a half ago, I was in Geneva with about 4,000 investors and private sector representatives. I touch on this very issue, and they are, they are totally committed. And there is I hope, quick transition that has to happen. And I think that there is willingness, there is awareness, and there is commitment. On your second question, which is not related to this, I have been very clear on that. The Secretary General has been very clear. Zero tolerance, transparency. There are processes that are ongoing, and we will provide all the support that we need to support to the process. I have also stated very clearly the openness, the transparency of the office, the access to any information you might require, but I will not comment on processes that are ongoing and that are in the hands of justice. And we have internal mechanisms also to address these very issues.
Yeah, I think it's maybe not a question exactly, but maybe I want to raise a problem that if we want to start with ourselves in this fight against plastic pollution, should we make the water dispensers here in our building working actually, because they don't function at all. Here are some places which don't have separate trashes for plastic. So maybe we should set an exact date when we should come to a plastic-free building. Thank you.
I thank you. I thank you for your comment and for your suggestion. I was also, I'm very much aware of that. I think that member states in the House are aware of that. I had a working luncheon with, several member states. They all want to team up. They are making the difference in their missions, in their offices as well, and we want to make sure that this venue, but all UN offices around the world, are single-use plastic-free areas. And for that to happen, the water dispensers need to work. I mean, that is a very basic and fundamental need, and I'll make sure that I address the administration and I address, the Secretariat on this to make sure. But thank you for that.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, PJ. My question is about, have you ever discussed about any timeline or target of eradication of a certain amount of plastic waste so far?
I think that time is critical. There are some arrangements in terms of the administration, in terms of the contracts that the organization has, but I think that we should imitate the very good examples that have already happened, both in Nairobi, that are happening in Geneva, that are happening in Vienna, and I think we should, follow the good example. There is a steering committee that has been put together, and we're working for them, with them, to make sure that they shorten the time frames, because this is an urgent matter. And if you allow me, I would just give the floor to the Prime Minister, because he wants to share some of the details of what we are doing in the spring in Antigua to boost this global campaign on plastics. Please, Prime Minister.
Thank you again, Madam President. Let me take this opportunity to announce that with the various activities to deal with plastic pollution, that there would be a grand concert to be held on April 27th, 2019 in Antigua and Barbuda, and we will have a number of international artists in order to bring awareness to the issue of plastics and the deleterious effects that plastic pollution has on the entire global population. And as indicated by the distinguished PGA, the issue of plastic use must be managed, and we have to ensure that we don't allow plastic to end up in the seas, to pollute our seas, and to pollute the food that we eat, which evidently will create problems to human beings as well.
Thank you. Oh, you had a...
Madam President, thank you. One question. You spoke mostly about what the consumers should do about plastic. You didn't talk about reducing the production of these materials from the companies or countries. And also, since you're here, on Thursday there is this vote on Hamas resolution, and first Ambassador Nikki Haley said that the Palestinian ambassador lobbied you to delay the vote one. And can you please tell us whether this kind of resolution would need a simple majority or two-thirds majority? Thank you.
Well, thank you. Well, I think that I have insisted on the very fact that this is a shared responsibility, the issue of fighting single-use plastics and plastic pollution. It is a shared responsibility. Of course, the leadership of heads of state and government is much needed, and we see the commitment of Antigua and Barbuda, of the Prime Minister himself. He's taking it as a priority, and I think that's what is making a difference. There is the consumer side, but it's the private sector, and I have insisted also that there is a great interest and commitment from the private sector to replace materials, to go, to change the way they produce. So I think it's a shared responsibility, but the burden, it's different. I think that, as mentioned, when there is strong leadership from a head of government, it makes the whole difference. Regarding the Hamas resolution, I want to tell you and be very clear about this. I am the president of the General Assembly. It's not a matter of lobbying the president or not lobbying the president. It's about following strictly the procedures of the General Assembly. And that is what the president is doing, following strictly the procedures of the General Assembly. The times, the ways we deal with things in the House, regardless which country a resolution or a process comes from. I have been very respectful on this, and I will continue to follow the rules and follow the procedures. And yes, we will take action on the resolution on Thursday. Thank you. Well, this is something that we're studying, and it depends very much also on the consultations with member states. Thank you. Photo. A picture. Okay, good. Yeah. Oh, okay. No.
Yeah.
Oh, and I have mine too. Oh, it's unfortunate. There's no. I have to. You've seen me with my white bottle. Everywhere I go, I bring my white bottle. I had this bottle the second day I took office, and I have it with me since. And and I give it as a present to every heads of state and government that visits me. They have one from my office. It's unfortunate that I don't have it with me now.
I would just say governments have responsibility, and Norway is taking that responsibility, but consumers, they also have power. So we need to use that.
Good.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prime Minister, again, and thank you for... Let's repeat that again.
So next time I'll have my bottle, eh?
No, you have your, but there's no movement around. Bottle for the Prime Minister? Is there a chance? Okay, let's repeat that photo because let's repeat the photo.
Next time I'll have my bottle.